All right, folks, hope you're having a great Saturday night. You know what? We've had a break so far this evening after some earlier morning and early afternoon heavy rains across northern East Tennessee, parts of Kentucky and Virginia. Have seen some heavy rains earlier today and already had some flooding. So here's the concern going forward. We'll have a weather impact alert for overnight tonight through Sunday morning. Now, the two main impacts, as you can see right here, will be high winds and heavy rainfall. High winds could lead to the potential for some downed trees and possible power outages. Heavy rainfall, because the ground is already saturated, could lead to additional flooding and even flash flooding. We've already seen flooding and even a little bit of flash flooding. We have some flood warnings that continue across parts of our region. So here's the obvious concern coming up after midnight, and it's basically going to be about between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. About a 4 to almost 5 hour window, if you will, late tonight after midnight and before sunrise Sunday morning. That 2 to 6 a.m. time frame, high winds and heavy rainfall moving back in, that could lead to more flooding. And because the rates of rainfall are expected to be pretty heavy, some embedded thunderstorms and convection type rain, that's when we're going to see the potential for flash flooding. So high winds, heavy rain, flooding is possible. Again, some of those high winds could create some possible power outages and downed trees. So that's one of the concerns. We're going to talk more about the high wind potential and the flooding, those two main impacts coming right up. And again, you want to avoid flooded roadways, avoid floodwaters, especially at night when floodwaters are hard to see. Folks, here's the simple reason. Number one, you don't know how deep that water is. Number two, you don't know if the roadbed underneath that stream of water has been washed out. Sometimes you see water, and even if it looks like it's still underneath, it could be swiftly moving. That's the nature of flooding and flash flooding, again, and it can happen quickly. So avoid flooded roadways. Turn around, don't drown. Always remember that motto. It could save your life someday, and so certainly keep that in mind. So a weather impact alert for high winds, heavy rain, and here's the two main potential impacts. We've got these at high moderate impacts for potential for some high winds. Now, we do have a chance for some thunderstorms. The overall severe threat as far as severe storms is fairly low. The main concern is this line of high winds, and embedded within that line of high winds, the very heavy rainfall. So just some strong winds in general, and with the heavy rainfall, we have that potential for localized flooding. As far as the tornado threat, hail threat, that is fairly low, not expected. Again, some strong to isolated severe storms possible on the plateau. We'll look at that closer in just a moment. So here's a look. Let's talk about the wind. These are the wind alerts. We have a wind advisory. As you can see, this does cover, again, all of East Tennessee. Does not include Kentucky, but a wind advisory. Winds right here could gust up to 45 miles per hour. And this is through noon tomorrow. It starts at midnight, so coming up here shortly. But even after the rain ends, after 7 a.m. Sunday morning, most areas, winds are still going to be strong. We could still see some downed trees and possible power outages even after the rain ends Sunday morning. So that's the concern. Again, we're going to see some strong wind gusts throughout East Tennessee, westerly, about 30 to 40 mile per hour plus winds. I'll show you that more in a moment. High wind warning for the mountains is in place now through noon Sunday, and winds in the mountains right here could gust up to 70 miles per hour. Notice the direction for the mountains out of the south, the direction for here in the valley, southwest to westerly tomorrow. So let's talk about how strong could some of those winds be. Again, this is our high-res guidance. Now, what I want to show you, I mentioned that 2 to 6 a.m. window where we could see the heaviest rainfall, the strongest winds as this next line of storms moves in from the west. And we'll take a look at radar as well in a moment. But take a look at this. Again, this is across the plateau and into the mountains, parts of the valley. We've got 40 plus mile per hour winds, and this is Sunday at 2 a.m. Check out Maryville, and again, it's a model forecast, but the spirit of what it's showing, 50 mile per hour gust. And that line of storms and heavy rain is likely going to be up on the plateau 2 to 3 a.m. So this is even before the heavy rain arrives. We got strong winds. Look at these winds. That's 50 to 60 mile per hour plus in the mountains coming straight out of the south. So Mount LeConte, again, Gatlinburg, above Gatlinburg, I should say, Clingman's Dome, and into Sevier County, the Smoky Mountains. So some of those stronger winds will continue. Now, as we go 4 a.m., that 2 to 4 a.m., that line of storms, again, we'll take a closer look at that in a moment. That's going to move from the plateau and here in the valley. There's that convergent line right there. Notice these winds. Again, very strong just ahead of that line. So about 3 to 4 a.m., that line's going to be moving off the plateau into parts of the valley with those high winds ahead of it and the heavy rain with the line. But then here's Sunday at 8 a.m. Again, most of the rain will have already ended. Look at these strong westerly winds. just howling through the region, 30, 35, 40 mile per hour winds and all over. So again, that's 8 a.m. And then again, the wind advisory, the high wind warning in effect till noon. Once we get past noon, the winds will come on down just a little bit. I'll go ahead and show you, but it's going to be a breezy day into the evening with those winds out of the northwest. Those northwest winds ushering in much colder air. We'll talk more about that in a moment as well. So here's the flooding part of the system, the heavy rainfall. A flood watch is in place for the Cumberland Plateau, and this will also be in place for all of Kentucky, northern counties, and East Tennessee through noon Sunday. The ground is saturated. Any more rainfall will immediately go to runoff, especially heavy rain, and could quickly lead to stream rise. Culverts, ditches overflowing, street flooding, and before you know it, you got flash flooding going on with more heavy rainfall. We could see an additional 1 to 2 inches of rainfall in some areas. Again, some parts of Kentucky and northern counties, but especially up into Kentucky near the Tennessee-Kentucky state line over the last 7 days this past week have seen anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of rain, over a half a foot. So if we get another inch, inch and a half, or 2 inches in a short period of time, yeah, it's like a layer cake. That's just adding up. It's cumulative, right? The ground is soaked, it's saturated. We've already had flooding from earlier today with the rains earlier this Saturday in some of these same areas. So particularly across, again, Kentucky, the Plateau, and the northern sections of East Tennessee, right in there. Again, this area has some of the highest flooding potential. So what I want you to do is be prepared to stay weather alert. Be prepared to seek higher ground. If you live in a flood-prone area, you're near a creek or river or stream that floods, again, and maybe the waters went back down a little bit from the rains earlier, but they could quickly rise overnight. You got to pay attention, stay weather alert, and be prepared to seek higher ground whenever we have a flooding situation. That's always important to do. And as far as driving, again, hopefully you don't have to be driving overnight tonight or out early in the morning. We're likely going to see residual flooding tomorrow morning, even after the rain ends. Remember I said the winds are going to stay up even after the rain ends? The flooding is going to stay up even after the rain ends. It will take a while for that water to slowly run off and drain down. So we could be looking at flooding. But again, that area particularly has the greatest chance for flooding. Wow. Well, we are looking at the downtown camera is fogged in. We've still got cool, foggy conditions in Knoxville right now, 47 degrees, and it feels like 44. Check out the temperature contrast. Pretty amazing. 63 for you in Sweetwater and Athens. Again, our high temperature is going to be just before midnight tonight, coming up in a little over an hour. These winds are still expected to kick in here in the valley. They haven't done so yet. So we're still socked in with the cool, damp air, almost a little bit of like an inversion, but those winds are howling over our heads aloft, but the winds will eventually push out that colder air. Notice the winds right now in Tellico Plains. Yeah, they're gusting to 40 miles per hour in Tellico Plains. Winds in Lenoir City to Sweetwater over 30 miles per hour. And again, that's expected to continue to make its way up into Knoxville, Morristown, Dandridge, where we have light to calm winds right now. So here's the big picture. The line of storms is just west of Nashville and on up into Kentucky. There's the thunderstorms. Now, there are a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings in the yellow polygons. Excuse me, probably get some water in a second. Here's a look at that line. There are a few severe thunderstorm warnings, but right now, again, that the intensity of the line is still holding together, and it's still just west of Nashville. Now, there is a tornado watch that precedes that line. It does not include anywhere in East Tennessee. It's on the other side of the Cumberland Plateau, and so we'll keep an eye on that. The greatest risk for severe weather, as far as the severe weather threat, again, sometimes, we're talking about high winds and heavy rain aside from any severe storms. The severe weather threat is really back to our west. There is a low-end threat for parts of the Cumberland Plateau. This does include Fentress, Cumberland, Morgan, and Scott up into Kentucky. There's a marginal low-end risk for isolated severe storms. But notice what happens when you come off the plateau into Knoxville, other areas. There's not a severe weather risk. So the threat for severe weather diminishes in terms of severe storms. Now again, not the wind potential. Again, high winds are expected. They're likely just because the system's strong. And the heavy rain could do flooding. But as far as severe storms themselves individually and a part of the line, overall severe winds are not expected area-wide. There is a chance for some stronger storms, particularly on the plateau, and maybe some isolated strong to severe storms, parts of the Western Valley. But the greatest risk for severe weather is where it is now, in Nashville and enhanced risk area, actually West Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama. So just wanted to keep you apprised of that. Here's the big deal, though. The flooding potential, again, some serious, significant, even some extreme flooding possible, especially across Kentucky. And so this is why I highlighted that area earlier near the Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia state line. And again, as far as the Channel 10 viewing area, we'll go ahead and zoom on in red. This is a significant risk area right here from northern Fentress County, Jamestown, Williamsburg, and basically the Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia state line. Same areas where you saw that heavy rain earlier today, same areas that have seen 6 to 8 inches of rain over the last week, right in here. Now notice the rest of our area has an elevated risk. So we all could see flooding. Again, the higher risk is up on the plateau in Kentucky and Virginia, where you've already experienced flooding. But any of us could see flooding overnight. Okay, so here's the futurecast. Here are the important details. Again, high-res models, they're pretty consistent. Again, sometimes the line may speed up a little bit, but they've been pretty consistent. We have two different high-res models. This is one of the ones that's very similar to the other one. So this is at 2 a.m. Eastern time, and we are looking at this line of storms that's approaching the Cumberland Plateau. Generally speaking, between 2 and 3 a.m. tonight, and after midnight, that's when this line of storms will be moving on to the plateau, maybe crossing over the plateau. This is 3 a.m. Again, between that 3 to 4 a.m., that line of heavy rain and potentially high winds could be embedded within this line. This is why I'm talking about we're not really focusing on the severe potential. We're talking about just high winds aloft that could be transferred down the surface with the heavy rain. Sometimes that heavy rain can pull down those stronger winds aloft down to the surface when you have heavy rain. The high winds get drugged down. And so manufactured that way instead of just one big old storm. So that's why we're looking at high wind potential anywhere up and down this line with heavy rain. See the reds? Yeah, it's very heavy rainfall. That's the flooding potential as well. That's 3 to 4 a.m. as it moves into the valley. 4 to 5 a.m. moving east of the valley into eastern areas, the mountains and foothills. And so, again, notice it's more or less holding together. So we've got that 2, maybe 3 hour window as far as experiencing high winds and heavy rain. So again, down trees, power outages, heavy rain and flooding will be possible. Now, once we get past 7 to 8 a.m., the rain quickly moves out. Then we're going to shift gears and talk about some light snow on the plateau. You can see a coating or dusting tomorrow on the plateau. Most of our models are showing that. Flurries possible in the valley, mainly just windy, blustery, and colder in the valley. Light snow likely in the mountains. Let me go ahead and show you. Yeah, you know, it's East Tennessee in winter in February. What are we talking about? We're talking about high wind, chance for storms, heavy rain, flooding, and then, and then there's snow possible the next day, all out of the same system, right? So look at this. We could be looking at maybe 1 to 3 inches possible, higher up in the mountains. And that would be the higher peaks, but at least a couple of inches possible. Again, nothing shown for the valley. We could see some flurries. It's just going to be windy and colder tomorrow. Bundle up. There's that chance for light snow, maybe a ½ inch to an inch, northern plateau, but otherwise a coating. And then we're shifting gears and talking about much colder air that's going to be pouring in for next week. So let me walk forward. Here we are at 10:47 right now. Again, thank you for joining us for this live stream and on Facebook. And before I conclude, we'll have a full update coming up at 11 o'clock. And Shay Smith will be back to anchor the news. We'll have the full update for you. And going forward, we're going to be here, again, keep you updated. Tavian Whitehurst will be here tomorrow morning early before the show starts because those storms will be arriving. Again, anywhere between 2 to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we're giving you this live stream and Facebook update right now to let you know, be weather alert as we go through the overnight hours, and just to give you a heads up and let your family and friends know that may have those storms and high winds and heavy rain and flooding overnight tonight into early Sunday morning. And we'll certainly hope for the best, but there is some potential high impacts out of the high winds and heavy rain that we're watching. It's fascinating temperature contrast. Look at this right now as we get back to current conditions. 47 in Knoxville. It's 36 in Roanoke. They just experienced a lot of wintry weather right in the mid-Atlantic. We call that CAD, cold air damming. That's a wedge of cold air on the east side of the mountains. Just because there's a big high up here. See, from D.C. all the way down to Charlotte, it's feeding that cold air past to Athens, Georgia. Usually makes it to about Atlanta, maybe just west of Carrollton, it stops. Just a side note. Meanwhile, on the west side of the mountains where we are, it warms up. It's like a seesaw. What goes down on the east side comes up on the west side. Let's do it like that since we're looking at the map that way. So that's what we're looking at, 71 in Tupelo, 66 right now. These are current temperatures, 60s and 70s. So we could be in the low to mid 60s coming up just after midnight. That will be an official high for Sunday, even though we'll be in the 40s and 30s. Look at Kansas City, 25. So we've got much colder air that's coming our way. So here's a look at the line of storms once again right now, moving into the Nashville area. And this line of storms has a lot of lightning, some intense storms. I see a few severe thunderstorm warnings. I see a lot of flash flood warnings preceding the line, but I mean some serious flooding in Kentucky because they've had heavy rain already, and that's coming into our area for our Kentucky viewers and northern parts of East Tennessee. That's why I want you to have a heightened alert for potential flooding, again, late tonight, more likely through the Sunday morning hours. See that light snow right there? That's also heading for the plateau later tomorrow morning and toward the mountains. So the players are on the field, or on the map, so to speak. Here's how it swings through. Here's a look at 4 a.m. Sunday, again, rolling right into the valley. Between that 2 to 4 a.m., rolling off the plateau into the valley. Again, some high winds, some heavy rainfall. Now, we're certainly going to hope for the best. Our wind potential with the wind advisory, 45 mile per hour gusts. Could see some stronger winds, but that's enough wind with the saturated soils that you get some weakened root systems and some trees. That's what can happen. It can knock some trees down because of the saturated soil with those winds. That's why we could have some power outages, power lines down. Heavy rain, again, several hours of heavy rain. Have to watch that flooding. Let's move forward. There's the snow potential whipping on through. Monday, we get to relax. Tuesday looks good. Have you heard about this yet? There's a chance for wintry weather moving in Wednesday night into Thursday morning. This is as far as this model goes out through Tuesday evening, but yep, it's February in the Tennessee Valley, right? You got to love that. We're looking at, going from potential flooding and high winds to wintry weather. So from Memphis to Nashville, snow develops late Tuesday night. That will start to head our way Wednesday. Right now it looks like light amounts. We could see several inches. If I had to say what it looks like right now, it's kind of the potential right now. We'll update you. We'll focus on that later after we get through this weekend. But that wintry weather moves through Wednesday night, and early Thursday morning. So let's wrap it up. We're going to get ready for the 11 o'clock show, and coming up in 10 minutes from right now. Again, we're going to keep you updated tonight, and certainly rest well. Tomorrow morning, again early, those high winds and heavy rain moves in. A 10 weather impact alert will continue through a Sunday morning all the way through noon. Our wind advisories till noon, though, so is the high wind warning for the mountains. Our flood watches until noon. And those high winds and potential flooding could be with us until noon tomorrow, even after the rain ends and the storms have moved on by. Now, President's Day and Tuesday were dry and cool, highs in the 40s, lows in the 20s. And again, that's what we're looking at right there, though, that potential wintry weather as we head into our Wednesday and again, Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. Check out Friday, a low of 14, a high of 36. A week from now, low of 19, high of 43. So we got much colder air moving in. Hopefully that moves out for February. March will bring us some warmer, calmer weather. We'll see. All right, that's it for this live stream. Thank you for joining us. We'll do our best to keep you updated. Stay tuned. 9 minutes away to the 11 o'clock update. Have a good, safe night.